So today's Brand Doctor podcast is with the one and only Dr. Eric George from New Orleans, Louisiana. Welcome to the show, Doc.
Thank you for having me, Henry. You got a Cajun guest today, right?
I'm excited to have you. I've heard a lot of great things about you through David Meltzer. And today we're going to be talking about the we mindset for entrepreneurs and investors. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because during all of this COVID pandemic, I think this mindset needs to be integrated and downloaded more than anything, right? So before we get started, Doc, just give us a quick background because my audience is going to be like, all right, who's this guy that's on his show and why should we listen to him? So here's your humble brag.
Well, thank you. Listen, I'm a hand surgeon by training, but I started a fully diversified investment company in 2006. We really are fully diversified: oil and gas, hospitality, hotels, startups. We're about $1 billion industry now and have a lot of different companies. And the we mindset is how I got to the point. And the we mindset is really where entrepreneurs and investors recognize that the more connected these two parties are, the better success you'll have. I mean, you know, investors have what entrepreneurs need, which is capital and knowledge of connections. And entrepreneurs have what investors need, which is a vehicle for a return. And typically those are two opposed parties. I mean, don't you agree? Meaning, you know what I mean? Like the entrepreneurs are saying, hey, let's sell this guy in a 2-year turnaround and we'll make money. And they project something that's not real. The investor says, I want to know what's going on and how are you doing it? And what we found is by fully integrating those two people, we really see some great success.
Oh man, I'm seeing it now, especially going through this COVID crisis where there's two types of people out there. There's the folks that are just all man for himself or themselves, right? And they're hunkering down, they're hoarding. You can't have none of mine. I'm out of it, right? And
yeah,
then
absolutely.
And then there's the other folks that are like giving shirts off their backs and saying, you know, we're going to lock arms and we're going to get through this together. And so talk to me about that.
You know, that is you are so right. And I think many people in your audience, I know are investors and entrepreneurs, and I know you have a wide variety of listeners. I think that everyone starts off thinking the only way to get ahead is to be the me guy. And I think we've all kind of tasted that early in our life and said, hey, you know, get as many widgets as you can and stick them in your pocket. And then you realize you collect a lot more widgets and you collect a lot more relationships by working together. And it came to us, and I know it came to you and it came to Dave, that by being fully invested with either if you're an investor and they're the entrepreneur, or if you're the entrepreneur and there's an investor, by working hand together, you know how you always have to come back, Henry, and you say, well, we need more capital. I've never been in a deal where you just need one call. Well, you have to go find someone else to do it because you burned the bridge with the first investor, and then you go and sell it again and sell it again. But if you work together, you know when the needs are coming. So I have found that, you know, how many businesses really need one round? None. But if you work together, the reinvestment comes from the entrepreneur and the investor that are working together. My team, I incent them very strongly so that they are truly invested in the deal. It's not like, hey, how are you going to help me get to this point? It's how are we going to all get to this point?
See, that's the mindset that we need to instill into our audience and into the folks that we want to serve. It's a we game, not a me game.
Yeah, I think that when you work for the man in these companies that have everybody says, well, so I blew it on that one. I didn't do the right advertising. The party that works there, she goes home and says, well, we blew it on that. But if you fully empowered, you made that decision, you made the call, and you know that the direction of the company will be altered by you, and you have a piece of it, you don't need to say, hey, you blew it on that. They beat themselves up so much because they're part of it. There's no reprimanding. There's no corporate boards where you're firing people. These people feel so bad about it, Henry, that they're part of it, that you have to almost say, listen, everybody makes mistakes. Let's redirect. So that's where we've come. And I think anyone that's been in a lot of our businesses know that I don't just say it, we really do it. We give them a piece of it. We let them be part of it. And we let them make almost all the decisions, I mean, I like to lead the ship a little bit because you and I have both been there. And I think they look forward to hearing what we have to say.
Yeah, I think that's why they're bringing us on. They need that perspective, or they need that guiding light.
Right. I mean, we've all done it. And I think the honest thing is, and I know this is true with Dave, and I know it's true with you and Warren Buffett, everybody can tell you about their successes, but what most people want to hear is the mistakes you made along the way so you don't make them again. What is it they say? You learn history so you don't repeat it.
Yeah.
And there's not one entrepreneur that I know that has done well that can tell you they haven't had failures along the way. Right.
Let's talk about that, Doc. So sure. What would you say one, I don't like to call it failures. I like to call it lessons.
I love that. That.
Okay. So give me one lesson from the past that, you'll take to the grave with you.
Sure. I'll tell you, I've learned, there's two things I'd like to tell you. One lesson that was probably the hardest of me, and in my book, I talk about it in chapter 5, and that was that I learned very, very a hard lesson. I knew that when a business fails, people get very angry and litigious. I knew that if a business is just marginal or barely making it, people are too busy working to worry about the fighting. But what I didn't realize, and I hate to say this as a negative, but you're asking me, is that when a business is overwhelmingly successful, the me people come out of the woodwork and the greed becomes unbelievable. I mean, some of the parties that before I knew what I was looking for, it was like, you guys are killing the golden goose. So I learned early on that if you have the wrong group of people, when you get to that point where you're extremely successful, you'll see very quickly the me people come out of the woodwork, take. An isolated story that your audience might like is that early on in my career, I had got involved in some of these franchise restaurant businesses. Okay. And I thought, wow, this is going to be really fascinating. Number one, I made all the mistakes. I didn't do my homework. Number two, I didn't realize that all the inventory was being purchased from one group and sent. We opened a bunch of these restaurants in New Orleans and found out that the shrimp, this is the shrimp capital of the world, was coming out of, Nebraska. And so, I mean, all the stories go on and on and on. And we ended up with about 8 or 9 of these restaurants, and they were just really unsuccessful, poorly managed, didn't have control, didn't know what they were doing. And, I learned a ton from that deal. I learned that leases can be difficult. I learned that you have to do your homework. Yeah. And I think all of us have put our toes in things that you say to yourself, wow, I wish I hadn't done that. And now I've really learned that I need people around me that know the world better than I do. And I mean, I'm in a lot of hotels, but I have probably the wisest and brightest hotelier on our board. I mean, the guy's done it and done it and done it. And who am I to say I know more than he does? Right. You're in oil and gas, you got oil and gas experts. And I think there's a mentality, and I don't want to keep the floor too long. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, but I think there's a mentality that, hey, I'm the guy with the money, so everybody has to listen to what I say. And the truth is, you want to listen to what other people say, and you got to surround yourself with the smart people.
Yeah, well, that's such a great point. So I'll share with you a lesson learned in the past. So when I was, I started my business when I was 27 years old. And I came from a very humble background. My father raised me all by himself, and worked as a shop steward at UPS for 33 years. I mean, he was a mechanic and a damn good one. And so,
that.
right. And so we came up, but I had this very wealthy uncle who, you know, big highway construction guy, lifestyles that are rich and famous, like, you know, really, it was like night and day compared to two of them. Right. Sure. And I was like, when I was coming up, I wanted to be like him.
Of course.
I wanted the respect. I wanted the money. I wanted the flash. And then I realized like it's not all about that. Right. But here's where I made the mistake. I always wanted to be the big fish in the small pond. And I always wanted it to be the smartest guy in the room.
Gotcha.
And I realized that is the biggest mistake that you can make as an entrepreneur or a business owner.
Could not agree more.
You got to be in the rooms where I don't like to use the word dumb, but let's not be the smartest person in the room. That's the right room to be in.
You are so right. And if you sit in the room and you're invested in something and you're the smartest guy in the room, then you've surrounded yourself with the wrong people, correct? I mean, you are so right about that. And I know a little bit of your history with the coffee pots and the clean. I mean, you're a hero of mine. And I mean,
thank you.
You really focused early on and made up your mind and have really gone to the top of the heap and now have really offering people something back. And I think that's the best honor in the world. Yeah. I took a little different route. My family, I was from West Virginia. We were 4 brothers. We didn't, you know, my dad made $30,000 a year. We were a small town, but my father said education. And I thought the only way you could make it was to either be a doctor or a lawyer. So I thought, well, I'll just be a doctor. Okay. And I ended up really learning a lot as a hand surgeon about the relationship between you and your patient is very much like the relationship between an entrepreneur and an investor. And I'll give you a quick analogy on that.
Please.
If you come to see me and I do a lot of NFL players, but you break your hand and you're a wide receiver, you know, you're investing in me. You're saying, wow, let's hope this guy can fix my hand so I can go back and catch these passes. Mm-hmm. I'm also investing in you and saying, listen, you're in the NFL. If I do everything for you, you've got to participate. You have to go to therapy. You have to do your exercises. You have to you can't go out and try to catch a ball tomorrow. You got to wait for it to heal. And so it's a partnership. It really is, Henry. It's a partnership between the doctor and the patient. Yeah. And what I've learned in business, entrepreneurs and investors are purely a partnership. Both bring 2 things to the table. One fails. If you're my patient and you go out and go lift weights on day 2 and break your plate, well, you are the investor who's failed me. And on the other hand, if I put the screws in wrong or fix you wrong, or you get infected because I failed to use antibiotics, I mean, then I'm the entrepreneur who blew it. So I learned early on that symbiotic relationship is what makes for a good outcome in surgery. And it also makes a great outcome in business.
Ooh, that's a great story. It really is, because I think people, and that even goes with clients too and customers. Like you should be able, and when people say partner with, right? Or yeah. One of my colleagues, he said something great. He said, if you want loyal customers, be loyal to your customers.
Wow. Love that.
Right? And it was like, yeah. Duh.
But you know what? That's really, really a great point. You know, Henry, interesting on customer base. we were looking through this Gallup. We did a little Gallup thing with True Space, which is a group of investors that are looking at these startups between 2 and 10 million and how they're kind of stuck in this little area. And what we found were 4 or 5 things that really make for a good business. And of course, one of them was, instead of chasing new customers, which was a little bit of an epiphany for me, you are better at marketing and staying true to your current customers than you are in it. You know that world better than I do, especially with what you did and how successful you were. But nurturing the ones who've been loyal to you is much better than going out and finding the next door neighbor, because that same guy tomorrow is looking at somebody else who might be cheaper. Whereas your loyal people are who you should rely on. Has that been your experience?
Yes. I have a colleague that doubled his business. He was at 1.2 and he went to 2.5 last year just by focusing in on his current clients.
Yeah.
He asked me a question, and that was an eye-opener for me. He says, how many clients, because we do like full brand identity. So when clients come to us, we give them the whole brand strategy and development and execution, and then we kind of keep them, we give them everything they need, and then we kind of send them on their way, right?
Yes, you sure
And
do.
he said, well, how much repeat business do you get? And I go, not much, because, we're a full service, and then we just hand it off, and then they go. And he's like, well, what are some offerings that you can create to keep them on board and to stay consistent with them and be consistently valuable to them over the course of a year or 2 or 3? And that's where the Branding on Demand program was born. So basically, I only offer this to clients that come through my program, and it is a continuity program to help them stay visually congruent and make sure that everything that we created for them stays and looks the part from here on out. And so they can leverage my team month to month, and we can do a lot of creative for them, whether it be video, whether it be imagery, whether it be ad design, or they need another landing page design or something like that. We're able to service them that way, and just to keep it consistent, because we've seen this 1,000 times where we create beautiful identities and then the client doesn't come back and they try to tinker on their own. And then it turns into like a Frankenstein type of and it's sad. So, I want to be able to take that branding and be their support and guidance here on out. And so we have that program, and it's been great. But listen, I don't want to talk about me. I want to
do, though. I would love to tell you something that I find that you do that is remarkable. And that is, and your audience really, your listeners should hear this. I love how you really tailor your models for that particular business. You have a real knack of, a lot of people do the same format no matter what the business is. And, I talk a lot about that in the we scenario. In other words, our oil and gas company is nothing like our hospitality companies, and our startup modern teacher has nothing, but we need people who can create a different scenario for a different audience. And you are a master at making those connections. And I love how you really do tailor to that particular need.
Oh, thank you.
Those people to grow. So
thank you.
I've seen a lot of your work. I'm really impressed with it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
True.
So here's my last question as we start to turn the corner here and wrap up. What inspired you to write your book?
Well, let me tell you, that's nice of you to ask. I'm not a big writer. I've never even been an avid reader. I mean, I've read things that I thought were fascinating and interesting, but I've never been one that sits down and looks. And I was approached by a really nice company that's well-known, a publisher, and asked me if I would be willing to do a little story on some of the relationships that I had developed to bring business people along. And once I was able to kind of tell my story, I realized that a lot of people loved the part of the stories that are the human connection, which was great. But what came back to me, Henry, was a lot of feedback by people sharing, hey, that's what happened to me, or wow, I wish I could learn more about how you can partner together with people. Many people were highly reflective of never taking the chance. So many people out there watch these shows and just don't jump in the water. And I think these kind of stories, podcasts like yours, hopefully the book We says, hey, any of us can do it. I mean, you can clean coffee pots at a hotel and become a very successful person. You can be a secretary at a law firm and start your own business. And you just need to surround yourself with people. And that really inspired me to get the book out there. Yeah. And if I inspire one person, that's more than I would have inspired without the book.
Right. Right. And sharing those stories and just giving, like, people, you're doing yourself such a disservice by hoarding that experience in, right? We were just talking about this yesterday.
Right. And I think a lot of people remember the old days of business, and it was a me mentality. I mean, it was that, watch some of these old movies. I mean, that CEO walks in the room and everybody scatters, and he's firing 3 people that day. And I think people have realized that that's not what makes a success now. These think tanks, I have been fascinated with how some of these young people think and move. I mean, we've had to change. I mean, particularly me, you at least understand that world, but Instagram, and I didn't know what any of that was. I mean, now you realize that all of these revenues are out there, and all revenue streams and all these sources that people are looking at to understand your business. Yeah. And having the right people is a home run for you.
Yeah. Doc, I love your energy. Like, your energy is very contagious. It is. It is. Like, you literally lit up my day, because it's been interesting the past couple of weeks. Like, I'm a glass half full guy.
I know you are. Love
right?
that.
But there were a couple moments over the past 5 weeks where I just start focusing in on the wrong stuff. I was talking about this yesterday on an episode, where I start to think about, like, what don't I have? Why can't I go out? And I start to get into that funk, right? Yes, so sir. as we turn the corner, but the good news is, as I put myself out there and I surround myself with people like you, and they immediately help me see the good and the gratitude in it all. There's a lot of folks, you mentioned just recently that people are just scared to jump in the water.
Yes, sir.
And now I'm seeing this globally, where the world has just froze.
Yeah, but you know what, Henry? You got to hear it. I want your crowd to hear me on this one. When there is problems, there's always opportunity. And let me just tell you, we had Hurricane Katrina down here. Now, granted, that was a very small. You had Hurricane Sandy, I know.
Almost wiped me out.
So you and I both know, but those were isolated to our communities. Right. But bar none of any exception, the opportunities that arose out of that to make a better place, to push reset, to kind of start over. There was federal tax credits. There were opportunities to acquire properties. There were new businesses. There were new startups. There were new ways of thinking. And you remember the technology in Hurricane Katrina was this new thing called texting, and everybody was texting on their phones. And we're like, whoa, what is that? I promise everyone that when this is over, the opportunities that this will bring. I mean, look at what we've been able to do now with just Zoom and connecting with people. Look at all the technology we've learned from virus and virology. Look at how we've communicated with people. I really believe that when you see a problem, if you run into it and not run away from it, there's where your opportunities are. The people who are hiding and going in the corner, are going to miss so much opportunity. It's the ones that go in, right? You buy when the market is down and sell when the market is high, and the market is down. Yes. Buy in now. And so I'm saying, on a global perspective for entrepreneurs, this is your opportunity, and there will be everywhere. I really believe that. Just like you, I believe the glass is half full, and I think there'll be opportunity everywhere.
Yeah, I think.
I'm sorry, I just want to say, look at these healthcare workers. I mean, look at these delivery people who every morning they get up. I mean, the trucks are going up and down our streets on Sunday evenings. Healthcare workers. There's so many people who are invested in this, and you get to see some real heroes. Yeah. So I think there'll be opportunity everywhere, Henry. I really do.
I do too, and I want to encourage the folks out there to, as hard as it may sound, and I know it's tough to, it's easy to say, hard to do, but look for the opportunity. I'm not going to put my head in the sand here and lock myself in this house until it's all over. Like, it drives me. And this is the biggest quarrel that me and my wife have right now is like, I'm an outgoing guy. So like, yes, this is like, you might as well put the ankle bracelet on me, right?
You're in a cage, right, baby?
Right? So I was teasing my cousin. We come from a large Italian family, and I was teasing my cousin, and I said, now I know what the ankle bracelet feels like, right? And we were laughing, but I want to share with you a quick little story. So I have a 2.5-year-old son. Oh, and at the end of every day, we go downstairs, we have a nice TV, and we watch a show together. And on Friday, I was in my funky day where I wasn't really feeling it. I felt like I got beat up that day, honestly.
I got it.
Right. We're watching this show, and it was called The Good Dinosaur. Right. Okay. Right. So this dinosaur, it gets lost. This little baby dinosaur gets lost, and he's going through his trek, right? It's like the hero's journey, right?
Love it.
And he comes across these two. Now he's a little brontosaurus. He's a plant eater, right? And as he's coming through this journey, he meets a family of Tyrannosaurus Rexes.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Right? But the funny part of the story was, they were cowboys in the Tyrannosaurus Rexes were cowboys. So it was Pop and daughter and son, and they were corralling these buffalo, right? And so at first, when the Tyrannosaurus Rexes were coming at this good dinosaur, the little Brontosaurus, he got scared and nervous, right? But they were actually helping him on his journey. So once they got these buffalo all herded, they had to break for the night. And so they're around this campfire, and the father dinosaur, old guy, all beat up. You could see he had scars on his face, right?
The cowboy dinosaur.
The cowboy dinosaur, right? So the kids were like, Daddy, tell the good dinosaur, your story. We love this story of back in the day. And he tells this story how he got into this horrible altercation with this crocodile, and the crocodile almost killed him because there was a couple of them. So he got one, and he took care of the one guy, and the one crocodile grabbed him on his face, and he had this big scar on his face, right?
Okay.
And he was like, as scared as I was, I thought I was going to die. This is Papa Dinosaur saying this, but he said, you know what? He said, I knew I wasn't, because I wasn't afraid of fear, and I didn't run from it. I ran through it.
Wow. Love it. Hey, what a message.
Right?
He ran to it instead of running from it.
He ran through it. And I'm sitting there. I'm almost got tears in my eyes now because, right? And I was like, what a message. So like, God gave me that message that day, and
your 2.5-year-old heard that too, which is great.
Yeah. And so but I share that story because I want the folks that are listening, watching in this, to not be afraid of this, but to look fear in its eye and go through it, because that's where the lessons will be learned, and that's where you'll find the opportunity, and that's where you're going to come out on top.
I totally agree with you. What a beautiful story. I mean, it really is. And people are facing that every day. I mean, you see the bad news, and we've lost a lot of patients down here. I have a hospital that's got a COVID whole floor. And what you don't hear a lot of is that there are a lot of people that we're recovering, that are getting better, that are coming out of this, yes, we look at the death rates and that's tragic. And we're doing all we can, but there are a lot of people that we get well and we get through this. Yeah. And just like your cowboy dinosaur, he was attacked. He had a rough time afterwards, but look at where he is today. He's telling the story. Yeah. He's looking back and offering a little bit of advice. And that's what I love what you're doing, Henry. And hopefully that's what I'm trying to do too, is to the younger entrepreneur who's out there saying, look, we've seen adversity before. We've been attacked by alligators, both of us, and, or crocodiles. And the truth is, we're here standing to show it. And I'm telling you, there's some crocodiles biting at us today. Yeah. But we'll look back, all of us, and say, where were you what did you do during COVID-19? What did you do? And you say, I hid in my house and never came out and helped no one. I think you're going to feel pretty badly. Yeah. And if you say, are you kidding? We jumped on it. We seized the opportunity. We helped people. We formed a unity. And more than ever, I've seen this world come together. The world itself as a we all have to help with this problem. Yeah. It affects every country. And it's been kind of nice to have a common enemy instead of each other. Yeah. And that's been this virus.
Man, I love that. Yeah, I love that. So I hope you've got some insights from this conversation, and I hope you learned something from Dr. George and all of his experience that he had. I want to ask you, Doc, where can people find your book and dive into this book?
Well, it's called We Change the Me Minds, or, Alter the Me Mindset, Change the World. It's on Amazon. It's on any site. Even if you just Google We by Eric George, there's opportunity everywhere. I would love for them an opportunity to read it. If I can do anything for any of those people, we have a connection on there as well that they can reach out to me for advice. I'm honored that you had me on your show, and I hope if there's any message, man, and the two of us both believe in hope, and ride into it, right? Yeah. Head into it. He was not afraid of fear, was he?
No, he wasn't. And that's I think the big aha and the big message that I want to get out to everybody today. And I appreciate you sharing your stories and your lessons and finally getting a chance to meet you, right? You're a busy guy down there.
Well, thank you, my friend. And I'm really honored. I appreciate it, and keep doing what you're doing, baby. You're changing the world.
Oh, thank you. You too. Well, there you have it, guys. Another episode in the books. Go grab that book, We by Dr. Eric George, on Amazon, or just Google it. You will find it. I can promise you it's going to deliver some great value to you. Otherwise, this man would not be in front of me today. We would not be having this conversation. So go and grab that book, and go follow Dr. Eric George anywhere you can find him, because this man, I got to tell you right now, first time I actually got to sit down with him, and the energy that this guy puts out is absolutely contagious. I wasn't kidding when I said it before. Like, these are the folks that you surround yourself with in life to help you live a more fulfilling life and help other people and just feel good about yourself. So have an amazing day, guys, and we'll catch you on the next episode real soon. Take care.